Hey, it's Anne-Marie with Speak Confident English. And for this week's Confident English lesson, I want to talk about networking and how to meet new people in English easily. Now, if you just cringed when I said networking and thought, ugh, I hate networking, well, you're definitely not alone. And it might be for one of three reasons. Perhaps you just don't know what to say in English. You're not sure about the right questions to use at a networking event, and you never know what to say when someone asks you a question. Or maybe, like me, you're an introvert and you're naturally shy. So meeting all of those new people and finding something to talk about feels really uncomfortable, and it's something you definitely avoid. Or number three, it might be a combination of both. So in today's lesson, we're going to look at 6 strategies that use your skills as an introvert to make networking easier. Plus, I'll give you the language that you need so that you can do it in English with confidence. Strategy number 1 is remember it's okay to give yourself some time. Do you ever feel like you need way more time than most people to get comfortable at a networking event, to think about what you want to say, and then you get tired really quickly, and other people seem to be enjoying it and having fun and just jumping into conversations easily? If you feel like that, you're absolutely right. Introverts do need more time to process information, and we easily get overwhelmed by noise, crowds, and lots of different stimuli. In fact, Marty Olson-Laney, author of The Introvert Advantage, talks all about this in her book. And her research shows that introverts require more time and their brain has to work harder in order to process information, thoughts, feelings, events, and so much more. So yes, you do need more time to prepare and get comfortable, and that's okay. Do a little bit of research before the networking event, whether it's a dinner party, an after-work event, or you're meeting new people in your neighborhood. Think about the kind of people who might be there and what kinds of conversations you might be having. Are they all going to be work-focused or related to your profession? Or again, if it's meeting new neighbors, it's probably going to be about families, children, what you do in your free time, and so on. As you think about the kind of people that you'll be interacting with, start to prepare some questions that you'd like to ask. And if you're not sure about the questions to ask, I actually have a fantastic lesson you can watch on how to master the art of small talk in English. I'll definitely leave a link to it just below this video. Now, that brings me to strategy number 2, which is to shift your mindset. Your mindset is a powerful tool that influences how you feel. And just a small change in your mindset can have enormous impact and help you to stay positive. So rather than thinking about this networking event as a necessary evil that you have to do for your work, change it to an opportunity to meet new, interesting people and have meaningful conversations. Here are a few more examples. If before a networking event you always think, oh, this is going to take forever, I want you to shift that mindset to, I can be positive and engaging for 1 hour at this event. Number 2, instead of thinking that small talk is just a waste of time, shift that mindset to, I wonder what the most interesting conversation I can have today might be. Example number 3 is instead of thinking, oh, I never know what to say, shift that mindset to, I wonder what question I could ask to get everybody else talking. And that brings me to strategy number 3, which is to use your secret weapon as an introvert. Ask questions. Introverts are fantastic question askers because they love letting other people do all the conversation work. It gives them time to think about what's happening in the conversation and what they might want to say when they have an opportunity to do so. So use this to your advantage. Now, I have one recommendation when it comes to asking questions and as you prepare for questions you might want to use. Avoid questions that only have a yes or no answer. For example, are you having a good time? Have you lived here long? Or are you into football? All of those questions can be answered with a simple yes or no. And that means you have to do more work to ask another question and keep the conversation going. So make it easier on yourself by asking questions that we call open questions. These are questions that start with words like who, what, when, where, why, how many, how much, how often. You get the idea. So instead of those yes or no questions, think about questions like, what's been the highlight of your year so far? What are you working on these days? Why did you decide to come to this conference? What kind of projects do you have coming up at work? All of those questions require much more in-depth answers. The other person is doing most of the work of speaking, and it gives you time to think about what you might want to add to that conversation. And here's a secret. The cool thing about all of that, when you're a great question asker, it naturally makes you a more interesting person in conversations. If you're not sure, I have a full lesson on this topic of how to be more interesting in English conversations. And again, I'll leave a link to it just below this video. Strategy number 4 is to find common areas of interest to easily continue the conversation. After you've asked a fantastic question from strategy number 3, listen carefully to the answer. As you do that, you'll identify areas where you have common interest, and those areas will make it easy for you to think about questions you could ask to continue the conversation, or even give you opportunities to share your own opinions and ideas. A great way to do this is to show that you're listening by reflecting back what you've heard and then adding on that question. Here's an example. Imagine that Sarah, in the accounting department where you work, is talking about how difficult it's been this year because of new tax regulations and laws. After she's finished speaking, you can reflect back what you've heard and add on a follow-on question like, it sounds like that's been really challenging and you're having to work much longer hours. What do you think would make it easier, or what should change? In that example, I showed that I was listening by repeating some of her language, that her work has been really difficult and she's working longer hours, and then I asked some open questions to continue the conversation. Here are a couple more examples of how to do that. If someone's talking about their love of cooking, you might say, oh, I love cooking too. What's your favorite cuisine? Or what's your favorite dish to make? Or, oh, you're really into football. Who's your favorite team? As you do that, it's time to move on to strategy number 5, which is to make it easy on yourself to participate in the conversation. And here's my number 1 recommendation for how to do that. Going back to strategy number 1 is thinking about the kinds of questions you might want to ask before you go to the networking event. When you do that, make sure to take time to also prepare how you would answer those same questions. And here's why. When we're networking, making small talk, and getting to know someone, most of the time, you will ask a question, someone will answer, and when they're finished, they'll say, and what about you? You can make it so easy on yourself to participate in that conversation and network easily by preparing your ideas and answers ahead of time. And finally, strategy number 6 is be genuine. It's absolutely okay to be an introvert and to be uncomfortable with networking. Most introverts are. We just have to find these other strategies that help us do it easily. But it's okay to embrace it and admit that you don't love those events. In fact, doing so can actually be a great way to start conversations easily. Here's an example. If you're attending a conference and you have a networking event in the evening, you might use something like, you know, I have to be honest, I'm really terrible at breaking the ice and making small talk. So I'll just introduce myself. I'm Anne-Marie. I'm an online teacher and entrepreneur. What about you? In that example, I've embraced the reality that I'm really not good at making small talk, and I found a way to introduce myself and ask a question to start the conversation. Here's another example. Hey, I'm Anne-Marie. I run an online company called Speak Confident English, and I have to admit, sometimes I find these networking events a little overwhelming. There's so many new people to meet. How about you? In that example, I've done a quick introduction. I've admitted that I'm a bit of an introvert and find these events a little overwhelming, and I've immediately opened an opportunity for a conversation. And with that question, I might even find that the other person easily feels overwhelmed or nervous about small talk and networking as well. And that immediately gives us something in common to talk about. Now that you've got these strategies and some of the language that you need to make networking and meeting new people easy in English, I want you to practice. So here are a few challenge questions I have for you. Number 1, you're at a conference and you've just sat down next to someone who works in your industry. So you want to start a conversation with them and get to know them. How would you do that? How could you combine the strategies and use some of the questions that we've talked about here to do that easily? Question number 2, you are attending a social event where you live. And at that event, there will be people who are connected to your industry and also people that might be potential customers. What would you say to someone at that event? As always, you can share your answers with me in the online lesson or just below this video. And don't forget to watch the other videos I mentioned on small talk and how to be interesting in conversations. And be sure to subscribe to this channel so you never miss a future Confident English lesson.